Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for your patience. We will now commence the Satoyama International Forum, co-hosted by the Hyogo Prefecture, the Asia Pacific Network for the Global Change Research, APN Center, and the Institute for the Global Environmental Strategies, or IGES. This forum is held as a collaborative program with ISAP 2025, the International Forum on the Sustainable Asian and Pacific. I am Shimizu, a Public Relations Officer for the Hyogo Prefecture. I will be serving as the moderator. Pleased to meet you. First and foremost, on behalf of the organizer, Toshiyuki Yamasaki, the director of the APN Center, will deliver the opening remark. Good morning, everyone. I am Yamasaki, director of the APN Center. So I'd like to offer a few words of the greeting as we convened at the Satoyama International Forum. Thank you very much for taking time out of your busy schedule to join us here today. The sixth basic environment plan presented by the Japanese government in May 2024 identifies the maintenance of the restoration of the natural capital, the foundation for the human survival, as its top priority. Furthermore, recognizing that improving an environment quality leads to the economic and social growth and development, it aims to build a circulation and ecological society. On top of that, we place a great importance on the regional CES as a practical implementation ground for the building the sustainable society. And this framework involves the residents, government, and the business collaboration to that solve challenges while leveraging each region's unique resources and characteristics. In Hyogo Prefecture as well, efforts are underway to establish the Hokusetsu Satoyama Regional CES and the Hokusetsu region, materializing this national direction. Over the 5 years from the 2014 to the 2018, discussion on the sustainable Satoyama practice and afforded not only in the Kurokawa area, but also at the representatives on the sites of the Hokusetsu Satoyama region, such as Takarazuka Nishitani Forest Park and Koyaike Park in Itami City. So these efforts fostered an exchanges between the local communities and overseas researchers and government officials, and the citizens, while the forms and the significant foundation that continues to shape today's the Satoyama International Forum. Today, we have first the Professor Emeritus Tamotsu Hattori of the University of Hyogo to deliver the keynote speech. Through his past experience in the Satoyama conservation in the Hokusetsu region for the long period of time, he will talk about the connection between the culture passed down in this area and its natural environment. Next, in our international case studies segment, Dr. Mitora from the IGES will present the practical example from the South and Southeast Asia. This will be then an opportunity to learn how the regional circulating the ecological spheres concept in the being applied on the ground to address the global challenges. We have also scheduled a Q&A session for the participants to ask questions of the speakers. We encourage you to actively and share your opinions. Finally, I would like to express my gratitude to everyone who has supported and cooperated in the organization of this forum. Thank you. I hope today's forum will be meaningful for all of you. With that, I would like to conclude my opening remarks. We will now begin the keynote session. Today, we are honored to have Professor Emeritus Tamotsu Hattori from the University of Hyogo deliver the lecture. After completing his doctoral studies at Kobe University, Professor Emeritus Hattori served as the professor at the University of Hyogo and currently serves as the president of the Hokusei Satoyama University. His work spans a wide range of fields, including ecological research on the conservation of the evergreen broadleaf forest and Satoyama forest, and plant ecology studies related to the Manyoshu and also the Harima no Kuni Fudoki, and also the folkloric the ethnobotanical research concerning the rice dumplings and oak leaf rice cakes. Today, he will speak on the topic Satoyama Forest maintained by the tea ceremony culture in the Kurokawa, Kawanishi City, Hyogo Prefecture. Now, Professor Emeritus Hattori, please take the floor. Thank you.
Good morning. And thank you very much for the introduction. And there was a mention about chimaki and kashiwamochi, rice dumplings. There was no one following me in the world, so I am the #1 researcher of chimaki and kashiwamochi, and I really want to talk about them. But today I was asked to talk about the Satoyama forest, so this is my topic today. And Satoyama may sounds that they have a cultural aspect, but there's no cultural aspect. So the people worked on the natural forest to gain fuel from it and nurtured it into the semi-natural forest. So it is not that rare, and it is a forest used by the human being year after year. And because human work is added to it, so there was original vegetation before that, and that is a point I want to talk about. And vegetation before the human touch, and Satoyama after the human touch. This is my topic today. And as you see here, Satoyama consists of various forests, such as fuel-wood forest, fuel forest, coppice forest, secondary forest. But in either case, this is a forest from which the human being obtain fuels. And as I mentioned earlier, before Satoyama is one which provides fuel to people, there was a stage that it was original vegetation. And let me talk about how it turned out to be the Satoyama. First, let's look into the original vegetation in the world. So it is a natural state, such as the it's not the Satoyama, or there is no rice field about it, or there is no other forest. So as you see, it's very simple classification, such as tropical rainforest, pseudophilous forest, evergreen-leaved forest, sclerophilous forest, rain-green forest, summer-green forest, needle-leaved forest, savanna, steppe, tundra. These are the original vegetations, and who are mapped in this way. So it's quite simple and easy to understand. And typical forest is in the rainy area. So in the center of the map, from the Japan to China, Taiwan, and also mountainous area in the tropical areas, and also the Canaric islands. So this is area where we see this forest. And what decides the conditions of these types of forests around the world? It is the annual precipitation and temperature, which you can find on the axis for this graph. So on this side, the precipitation is higher, and when the higher in the vertical axis, temperature is higher. So lower, sorry. So when there is the small amount of precipitation and high temperature, it is desert. And where we are is the area with the much precipitation. So we have the our forest pipe, and also in other regions we have the area with the olive, such as the sclerophyllus forest, and also we can find a steppe in other regions. And on north of us, we have the areas such as New York, London, Paris, and Berlin. This is where the summer green forest. And farther the temperature is lower, such as in Moscow, we have the needle-leaved the forest. And farther the temperature is lower, we have tundra. And of course, Japan is located without such a high temperature area. So in case of Japan, we have the four types of forest, such as the Lithophyllus forest, Sclerophyllus, and the needle-leaved forest. And the green part is the Lithophyllus forest. And most part of Japan is under this category of the Lithophyllus forest, including the Naha in Okinawa. So today's theme is Satoyama Forest. So basically in Japan, Satoyama Forest is created by damaging or destroying this deciduous forest. And where the temperature is much lower, such as in Rokko Mountain, whose height is more than 750 meters, we will begin to see the summer green forest consists of beaches. And further up the mountain, we'll find the needle-leaved forest. It's not the artificial forest, it's a natural needle-leaved forest. And Kinki region is rather warm, so it is only in the Odai-Omin mountain we can find the needle-leaved forest. And after that, higher up the mountain, we can find alpine desert. And when we take up the Kansai region, this is the area of the forest. So we can find the red with the needle-leaved forest, and the blue for the summer green, and green part is for the Lucidophilus forest. So as you can see, the most of the part is the Lucidophilus forest, and the Lucidophilus forest, which is located in the lower place, much destroyed. And when we see distribution, in the center of the Kansai region at local mountain, the height is about 750. In the Kawanishi, up to the 600 meters of the altitude, you can find the Lucidophilus forest. And on top of it, you can find the summer green forest. And on the side of the Japan Sea, because of the much snow in the winter, we can find the summer green forest to the lower part of the place. And this is the first forest which was damaged the most by the human being. And in the textbooks for the high schools, this word of the this is the first forest is used, but it was once described by the evergreen broad-leaved forest. So, but evergreen broad-leaved forest can also cover the one from the tropical rain areas. So in order to classify it from the other forest, we have this word of the Lucidophilus forest. And this is plants with the leaves who is broad and also the very glossy surface. And not only in Japan, also in China, Taiwan, and South Korea, and also the Chile and New Zealand, we can find these broad-leaved trees. And especially at shrines and temples, you can find the trees of the evergreen forest. In case of Japan, we can find the Lucidophilus forest in the shrines or temples. And basically, the other religions, or such as Christianity or the others, do not have the practice to keep the Lucidophilus forest near to the temple or shrines. And I am specialized in Listophilas forest, not in addition to the Chimaki and Kashiwamochi. And the reason why I could make this research is because I'm in Japan. Because in other regions or other countries, we cannot find Listophilas forest, so we cannot track the record of it. But in case of Japan, when we study each kind of shrine and forest with shrines and temples, we can find what was the original state of the forest because the forests were with the temples and shrines. And let me explain you what the Aristoteles forest is. So this is the one you can find the Chinkpin, and this is the one from the Okinawa mainland, and this is from the Amami Island. So the appearance is the same anywhere about the Luciferous forest. We cannot tell the difference. But in case of the Amami and Okinawa mainland, because the area is windy, so you can see the trunk of the trees sometimes. And this is the one with the Kuchi Shrine in Nishinomiya. And this is a very typical Luciferous forest you can find in Japan now. So there's a main building of the shrine, and back of which is the shrine forest. There's a misunderstanding that about the where the God is, and there's misunderstanding that God resides here, and it's a misbelief. So in the forest that God resides. So you cannot gain any benefit visiting the shrines without any forest with it. So you have to visit the shrine with forest with it. So I'm sorry, my message like this requires so much time, so I have to rush to the end of my presentation always. So the temples also, such as temples also have the forest, and this is the largest one you can find in the Hyogo Prefecture, attached to the Taisan Temple. And this is another from the Osaka Shrine in the Sanda City, and you can find the gate to the shrine here.
And of course, inside of the shrine, there's trees. However, then you look at trees as the trunk is very thick. So look at me, me in the past. So I still have the black hairs. But anyway, that in the forest, and you can see that the very big trunk trees. That is that there's natural tree. However, Satoyama forest, that the trunk is very thin, right? So you can see that those big trees stands for that natural the forest, and you can see that the representative the camellia, and you can see that the leaves are shiny. So that's why that it has the name of the Lucidophilus forest. And also that the candle belly. So that this is one of the species, consisting of the Lucidophilus forest. That forest is the destroyed. And partially the summer green forest is also that they destroyed. And this one is also that one of the deciduous in the broad leaf forest, which means that the leaves are that they're falling down in the winter. So the temperature is a little bit lower than that, the other ones. And you can see that the Myokensan, the mountain, and you can see that the leaves are that red in the autumn, and then in the winter the leaves are that falling down. And this is a Hyogo-no-tsu, the mountain, and you can see the summer green forest here that it is already that they're getting the red in the leaves. And you can see that in the winter, and then the leaves that are coming out after this. So this is also the natural forest, and you can see that the very thick trunk. So this one is the tall deciduous oak. The diameter is 20 meters and so on. So that it is very big trees in the natural forest. And you can see that the maple tree inside of the summer green forest. So here, so that in that those that they summer green forest and also lucid dwarf just in the forest are destroyed to make that a Satoyama forest. so that these that the soil to become that the Satoyama trees, and it starts from the Yayoi era, because at that time that in the paddy field work would got started, because that they need to have that very big paddy fields, and then in order to do that, and they need to get the fuel. So in the Jomon era, that the people used that wooden the pieces. However, that the population density was very low, so that's why that they could get in a branch in that the forest, and then they could utilize them as the fuel. However, then after that, in the Yayoi era, that they were stationed in that one community, and therefore that they needed to get in the fuel, and for that the fuel, they need to have the mountain to supply that the fuel. So that's why that here comes to that the Satoyama Mountains. So here that becomes the semi-natural vegetation. So yeah, Ella got started around the 3,000 years before, but still that the 2,000 years before at that time, the Toyama Mountain, the forest was used as that fuel. So that for 2,000 years, that in Satoyama forest supplied the fuel to the human beings for these 2,000 years. And at that time, of course, they didn't use the oil and the gas. And then the Environment Agency or Environment Ministry of Environment, they was proud of that, saying that Satoyama, the forest was supplying that the fuel for that long period of time. Now, Satoyama Forest, you can see that this one is obtained in the fuel such as the firewood and so on. So this is called a semi-natural forest. So that if you would the forest and the forest and second forest, or that the copy forest and the low forest. So it is not really distributed in a specific area, because it is getting that the fuel out of that, right? So that it is the spread nationwide. Wherever the community there, that the Satoyama Forest was there, adjacent to that. So you can see that the relation between that and the village Satoyama and Deep Mountain village wise, and houses there, then nice paddies and the crops in the fields there. So that the Satoyama, of course, and there's a forest, and as well as in the grassland. And anywhere that where that the people is not intervene, that is a deep mountain. That's a natural forest. There is a relation in between the Manyoshu era and Edo era. Satoyama, as in the word, that in the Manyoshu it wasn't used. Satoyama is recently used for that 30 to 40 years from now. So beforehand, and we just called the mountain Yama. So there was a difference from that deep mountain, but wherever that the forest there, that we just call the Yama or the mountain. But anywhere that there's no human intervention, there was a deep mountain. So that so there's the Mayoshu. There's some short that or there's a song. Was the a poem was made, and here that they mentioned that the deep mountain. Deep mountain is a deep mountain here, and you can see that the diagram here. That is the distribution of the deep mountain and the Satoyama mountain, and also that the village. And I mentioned the Satoyama forest was distributed nationwide, wherever that in Japan that it was there. So you can see the landscape of the Satoyama forest. You can see that in the brown area, that is the Satoyama forest. So that we made it by the human being for the fuel. Then this part is at the shrine and forest, because this is the goat area. So that we had this in the forest, and then they destroyed the part of that to convert to that in Satoyama forest, so that it isn't very easy to understand to distinguish and from that the Rushidophyllus in the forest, so that it is changed from that and there to that the deciduous the forest, because it is said in the fuel. So the fuel means that we want to grow these trees as soon as possible. And so because that in the deciduous the trees that are growing much faster than the Rushidophyllus in the forest, that's why that we change it. And if you see that the fuel, wood fuel, there the three types: firewood, brushwood, and then charcoal. And you can see that this is firewood, and you can this is the usual firewood, right? And you can see that the kintaro, so that they use that axe to cut them up. That is the firewood. And then that we use that firewood, and or they get the heat here. And what about the brushwood? It is very impossible that the kids to understand because they never use it. However, that no Momotaro, some Momotaro's then the grandfather went to the mountain to cut out in the brush, so that we try to use that the Momotaro as in a story to have them understand that the brush word, so that so that the kids did not understand what the Shiba means, and instead they thought that that was or the grandfather was kind of that got tied in the mountains. So, but anyway, that is what the brushwood is all about. So here the raccoon, and then here that in the brushwood is there, and it is in the fire. And so this is in the Kachiyama story that then the fire. So that story was never understood by the kids. So that they used the stone to put in the fire on that in the brushwood, but our kids did not understand what this means. But beforehand, in the past, that we used to that the Kelly that in the brushwood. And as third fuel was the charcoal. So that why we could maintain that the Satoyama forest for the 2,000 years and more, because we protecting the three the principles, but local mountain, and this they did not they follow that this the principles, so that's why it became that the board mountain. But these three were that they maintained, then they need to still they exist. And the first one is a regeneration. That this is a regeneration after the felling, so that you felt that those in the words, and then that they used as in the fuel. So if it is as it is, it's over, right? So however, then we need to regeneration, so we need to revive it. So what the representative of the regeneration is the regeneration by sprouting. So you can see that they right after the felling. So you can see only that this the thickness, and then we cut it out, and then in the spring to that summer, this the sprouting is allowed at the 1 meter length, and then we will grow the sprouting, and then in 10 years ahead, and then that the thickness is that much, and then we could cut once again.
And this tree grows so fast, so after 4 years, they look like this. And this is another picture of me when I was very young. And this is a picture from Hokkaido. So you can find a sprouting trunk from the deciduous oak. And so this thick of trees allowed people to cut it for the fuel. And this is the project to reproduce the Satoyama forest in Tokyo area. So this is the appearance under the forest, Satoyama forest. So there are so many thin trees, younger trees, and when they grow enough, they can cut them for the purpose of obtaining fuel. So you can find a big difference between the Satoyama forest and natural forest. And so the cutting and having the felling, after felling, having the sprout to grow is enough. So only 1 year, so the tree is not enough. So we have to calculate based on the number of years required until they can be harvested again. The total area of Satoyama forest is divided by the number of years to calculate the area that can be cut off each year. That is what we call the felling rotation. So as you can see here, 1 year 2 year, 3 year, 8 year after the felling, you can find the growth of the trees for each area. And you can cut the trees in that area. And by rotating it for 2,000 years, people could have the supply of fuels from Satoyama forest. So this is a view of immediately after the felling, and in the other area, 1 year after the felling, you can find the sprouting started. So this is a rotation took place in Satoyama forest. Then, so is the rotation felling is enough? No, because we have to manage or maintain the forest. For example, these green trunks just came from the outside. So in order to maintain the Satoyama forest, we have to remove these fallen species. So in order to grow the types of trees which can be the material for the fuels, we have to remove the others, such as the vines or the weeds. And so that is a part of the management. And rather than disposing them, we also turn them into the fuel. So management and supply of the fuel are the same thing or integrated work. And this is a great part of the Satoyama forest management in Japan. So the management of the Satoyama forest is integrated into the obtaining of the fuel. And this is a picture of the Momotaro's grandparents. And it seems that the grandmother is a bit too young, but I have to refrain from making such a kind of sexual harassment type comments. But anyhow, the grandfather goes to mountain to obtain, to collect the brushwood, but he is visiting the mountain for the purpose of managing it. So, and in this picture, the grandfather is cutting or collecting the brushwood, which is a kind of thin branches. This is a type of management. But after 1960s, there is a fuel revolution, so the charcoal or the brushwood began not to be used, replaced by the oil, gas, and electricity. And so the people began not to visit a mountain anymore for the purpose of managing it, because the more convenient type of energy is available. So the mountain areas in Rokkosan area does not keep any original state of Satoyama forest, so they are all untouched, left untouched, and nobody goes into mountain anymore. Then what happens? So originally there was the deciduous forest, and so now the mountain or forest is now going back to this original state. And if it does not take any time to go back to this original state, it won't cause any problem, but it will take much time. So once they will go through the evergreen forest, in which in the forest it's quite dark. So when you find that the inside of the forest is so dark, you can say that it is going back to the original state. And also, you can find the taller trees and also the vines and evergreen tall ferns and bamboo, and also the damage caused by the deers or the people who stole the types of species they want. So various issues can be seen in this transition period. And this is the current situation. So now you can find the progression of succession. So as you can find at the top, there is still the evergreen trees, and at the bottom, you can find the other types of trees. It was not the state of the original Satoyama forest, because the people like the grandfather of Momotaro's story entered the mountain to cut these low trees. And later, the tall oaks will catch up with the height of the other types of oaks. And this is the state of the current Satoyama forest. So when I make the research into the 10 meter by 10 meter space, in the usual Satoyama forest, you can find 43.4 types of the species of the plants. But now with Satoyama forest untouched or left untouched, we can find only 18 types of species. So in the past, there were the various types of the azaleas or these plants with flowers could be seen, but they are disappeared. And now we can find only the evergreen trees, which makes the inside of the forest so dark. And the second issue is the death of the pine wilt disease, which is a very continuous issue, and they killed many of pine forest. And also the high tall tree forest, because they are left untouched, they grow and become very tall. And when you see the width of the size of the tree trunk, you can find they are very big. And this is the original size you can find with the Satoyama forest in the past, but they were left untouched for 70 years, so they grow so big. Not in the state of the original vegetation, but they grow so fat. And it is not only poses problem, but sometimes at forest, in the parks, when they grow into the great forest, that is a good one, but that is different from the Satoyama forest in the past. And we also see the growth of the vines. So when you visit the high season, you can find wisteria all over the place. And it is very beautiful, but the reason why we can enjoy such wisteria flowers is because there's no one who cut these vine plants. And the first thing that a grandfather of Momotaro's story cut in the forest was vines, such as wisteria. And at present, there's no one who cut these vines, so we can find the wisteria anywhere. And also, we also the dwarf bamboo. And this is a common dwarf bamboo, and it was a type of plant which was cut by people in the past. And also, we have the evergreen tall fan, which is used for the decoration in a new year. And you can find the overgrow of the evergreen fan. And in the past, it was cut for the fuel, but no one uses for fuel anymore. So if you need it for the decoration at New Year, you can go into the mountain and find it for free. And also the peeling the tree thing by the deers. And you can find that all the trees were trees skins were peeled off by deer. So, whose skin is quite thin, so eatable. So the deers peeled off the skins of the trees. And this is a number of the deers which has ever been increasing. And as of 2022, there are 190,000 deer exist. And Hyogo Prefecture took measures against it and eliminated about 40,000 of them. But Hyogo Prefecture has a well-advanced management of the deer number. But even under Hyogo Prefecture, with such measures, the issues on the deer on forest is ongoing. And also, this is an issue of the oak wilt disease. So in the midsummer, the oak wilt disease took place and the trees die in this way. And this is another issue.
So in this way, there's so many issues here. Underneath, so abundant Satoyama forest-wise, we have everywhere in Japan, but even today, but Kurokawa in that Kawanishi, that we still maintain that the Satoyama forest. So because this has that the chestnut, Japanese chestnut oak, and where is that in the Kurokawa in that Kawanishi city? You can see that in a red dot. It is at the upper stream of the Inagawa River. So where is it exactly? That you can know that the Nose Dentetsu Railway, and you take that railway to get to that the final stop, and then you need to walk to get to the Kurokawa region, and there that we still have that the Satoyama forest maintaining the original way. So why the Satoyama forest in the Kurokawa is still in a failing and in use? because there's a demand for that high quality charcoal for that tea ceremony. So if it is a normal charcoal for that they use in the barbecue, then that charcoal, wise, and we get it from overseas countries because that is way cheaper than the one that we have in Japan. So that why don't we use that overseas charcoal for that tea ceremony? That well, we can't because it's smoky and also that it has that like a crack. So for that barbecue wise, it doesn't matter, right? But we can. Will be patient for that. However, inside of that, the very small that the tea ceremony room, and then if there's too much smoke, that has a problem. So that's why we needed a high quality charcoal. But beforehand, we didn't have that kind of high quality. But now that we have the technology to make the high quality charcoal, and so that in order to make that, and we need to do the felling of the Satoyama forest, and then they're using that the word to make the charcoal for the tea ceremony. So we have that kind of cycle. We do have that the Wama charcoal that is called the Binchotan charcoal, the Kishu charcoal, and then also that the Miyazaki Tosa. We have those Binchotan charcoal. So then probably they have that Satoyama forest there, but we checked, we did an investigation. There's no that original Satoyama forest because that they didn't, the felling of that the umabegashi trees for that Binchotan charcoal, but they just or what they were felling, so that they did that selective felling, but so that the other trees that keep growing, so that as a result, it's not going to be the regeneration occurred in the Satoyama forest, and the Binchotan that the makers that they will pay attention to that in our Jishima Island, and there's that umabegashi, the oak, the trees available. So again, they did a selective felling, and then they brought to the Wakayama, but in the end, it's not going to be regenerated in those Satoyama forests in the Binchotan, the charcoal area. But anyway, so regarding the Binchotan charcoal, so that probably then they can use the overseas the charcoal. But again, that in the Binchotan charcoal is the high quality because they maintain that there's Binchotan charcoal because of the food culture, and our charcoal is maintained as that tea ceremony that the usage. And you can see that this is for that in the winter. Then once you do that in the tea ceremony, that the one time you use that much of that in the charcoal, so that we have the various names in each of that charcoal, and also that location that charcoals are that they already designated, and you when you attend the ceremony that you would check, and then that you will observe. And I mentioned that the Kurokawa charcoal is used for the tea ceremony, that the long history of the charcoal and extensive the documentation, the high quality charcoal, the high recognition, and they use the polar dit kunugi as that trademark. So that we call that the polar dit kunugi, so that you saw that in the Kunugi in the Kanto region, so you can see that we cut it, the ones that it is germinated from the ground, and so we cut it out. But under this, the Satoyama forest, we make that table, and then we cut up the trunk coming out of this stable part. So this trunk part will be getting thicker and thicker, and then we call it the polar dit kunugi. So not only that here that the polar dit kunugi is available in the Yamanashi Prefecture as well, but this is the original way to utilize the polar dit kunugi only in the Kurokawa region. And charcoal is available nationwide, as you can see the distribution map here. And here that we have Kefuki-gusa. So that the Hitokura, that is the location. The Hitokura charcoal is called the Ikeda charcoal because it is so as that the in Ikeda. And also that the imposed the Kencho in the 1670s, and so described that an area of the communities such as the Kunugyo Forest and in an ancient settlement within the Napa region and in Inagawa River, so that those region names, so Hitokura, Yoshikawa, Kurokawa, Kunikawa, Akodani, so that this area exactly the same place that this Kunugi Forest does exist. So these are the things recorded in the documentation only here. And you can see that the distribution recorded like this. And here that you can see that the red circles are that those distribution areas. So the Yoshikawa, Hitokura, the Kurokawa, Kunisaki, so those Kunugi forests still exist even today. And here is recorded based on the tradition that Ashikaga, Yoshimasa, and Takenojo, and the Sen-no-rikyu. Sen-no-rikyu also used it in the charcoal. And Toyotomi Hideyoshi used this charcoal to have the tea ceremony. And the high quality, so strong heat and beauty, the does not burst, and the smokeless, and also fragrance. And the Setsuyo Guntan, the Hitokura charcoal is made from the kunugi, and also that the very high heat, and also that the Hitokura Totoromi the charcoal was made. And so that kind of the record was made in the documentation. You can see that cut part is not that beautiful, but this is cut charcoal that we use the saw to cut it out, and you see that the cut section, so that is what we call the kuchansema, the charcoal, or the kiguzumi, or you can see here. So this is that Japan's #1 charcoal. So then here is that the sakura fudoki. So the sakura is known for that the charcoal that is used for the tea ceremony. I have only 1 minute. So anyway, that this is the Ikeda Zumi. So that we have that the sakura fudoki, and then so we went into that the sakura. So there's no or the Kunugi forest, but instead we also have that in the bus stop, Kunugi Bayashi. And also that we have the various other records and the documentations about the Polaradit, the Kunugi. So here it is the Polaradit Kunugi. So that it was preserved in this way. So therefore, that it was utilized for that in the learning experience through that the experience in the Satoyama, and also that the citizens' awareness is raised, and also that the in learning through an experience in Satoyama for that the fourth graders are used. So that I don't have enough time, but this one is recorded in the Mayo shoe. Spring is in the fresh green, and the summer is deep green, and then the reddish brown. That the patchwork and appearance of the autumn mountains. But Mayo researchers that the autumn that there's and the various the color are turning into the red in a little bit different colors. That's why that it looks like the different with each other. However, it means a little bit different, and you can see that this is a failing 1 year after, 2 years after, but because that when it comes to the Japanese beech forest, and it looks at in the kind of the or that the patchwork. And however, that in case of the Satoyama forest, it's not then the change in the color with, from that each other. So that why it looks at in the patchwork way, because that the first the year after the felling that it looks at in the white, and the second year it looks in the red. So that's why that it looks like patchwork manner. So that is that the real or the true meaning of that the landscape of the Satoyama forest, and you can see it only in that the Kawanishi, the Kurokawa region. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Professor Emeritus Hattori. And we want to take one question from the floor because of the time limited. So when you have a question, please raise your hand. The gentleman over there. sorry, but we'd like to take only one question. I am Kamuchi from the NADAP ward, and about 40 years ago, I lived in Kawanishi Kokawa, the place you mentioned, and this state of forest. Actually, how many people actually working in the Kurokawa's forest? So when I was there, I met only one person, Imanishi-san, who took care of the Satoyama forest by himself. So not only his own forest, he cared the other parts to maintain this patchwork state. So I don't want to know how many people working on this forest. So I'm saying that this is a number one and only one Satoyama forest in Japan and the world, and how many people supporting this. So we have only one person who is producing charcoal in Hyogo, and also another one in Osaka. So there are only two people who are producing charcoal, but there's a kind of civil support. So thanks to that support from the general public, we can still maintain this Satoyama forest. And I myself bought a plot from this Satoyama forest, so I am the one who is supporting it. Thank you very much. So please give him another great applause. Now we will move on to the introduction of the overseas case studies. Our next speaker is Dr. Mitola Bijon Kumar, who serves as the research director at the Institute for Global Environmental Strategies Center for Sustainability Integration. Dr. Kumar has over 17 years of experience in the field of sustainable development and has been working on climate change measures rooted in local communities and the promotion of the Sustainable Development Goals through integrated approaches. His research covers areas such as regional circulating and ecological affairs, regional CES, and nexus of water, energy, food, and climate. And he has produced many theses and suggestions to the policies. And he has served as the one to bridge the science and various activities around the world, especially the policies. And today he will deliver a lecture titled Solving Global Challenges Locally toward a Decarbonized and Resilient Society based on the regional CES concept. Now, I'd like to invite Dr. Mitra to the podium.
Thank you very much for introducing me with the all audiences here. Good morning. Thank you very much, first of all, to Hyogo Prefectural Government as well as APN to invite me in this forum. So in this forum, as you see in my title, that it is important to actually consider the localization, local actions. I think Professor Hattori already in his presentation highlighted there is a kind of lot of potential of the local actions. We have the local resources, but how we can actually utilize these local resources in a sustainable way so that we can have a resilient society and sustainable society. So this is the lesson I can actually take from Professor Hattori's presentation, and Satoyama Forest is one of them. Now, I want to actually highlight that these local actions is very important to achieve not only for the local sustainability, but also for the achieving the global goals and sustainable goals that adopted by the global leaders. So that's why my topic of this presentation is localizing the global agendas. And I want to introduce the circulating and ecological sphere approach as a kind of concept for synergistic local actions towards carbon neutral and resilient society. So in my presentation, basically I will start with some kind of what kind of challenges we are now facing. and what kind of global agendas already adopted by the global leaders, and what is the status, and try to highlight importance of the local actions to achieve these global goals, and introduce the CS concept, and with some kind of example from Japan as well as the example from the outside of the Japan. So let me start with this slide. I know that all of us, we know that we are passing through different kind of challenges, and these challenges is very diversified. They have the different nature. The first thing, if you see the population growth, in some countries, the overpopulation is the issues. In some countries, depopulation is the issues. Like in Japan, depopulation is a challenge for our sustainable development, economic revitalization. On the other hand, the urbanization, that unplanned urbanization also create a big problem. Of course, it gives the lot of benefit advantage to us. We have the economic growth in the urban center, we have the different services in the urban center, but unplanned urbanization also harmful for us, for the society. And the energy, now due to our lifestyle change, we are actually, our lifestyle fully depend on the fossil fuel-based energies that Professor Hattori also mentioned, that now we move from the Satoyama forest-based fuel to the fossil fuel-based. So that is one of the reason of degradation of the Satoyama forest. So this is one of the areas actually we need to consider. And that cause actually global warming issues, and that increase the different kind of disaster. And due to urbanization as well as the kind of our lifestyle change, intensive resource-based lifestyle, that also create the waste as well as that actually cause the pollution of our environment. These are the different kind of challenges we are facing, and most of them are actually human-induced. So there we can play a vital role to address this kind of challenges. And of course, you know that in recent days, we are also facing the emerging challenges, that it can be geopolitical challenge, it can be different kind of environmental challenges, like COVID is one of them actually, that this is the new challenges we very recently faced, but we may have similar kind of challenges in the coming years as well. So we need to get prepared that how we can collectively work to address these challenges. And antibiotic AMR, you may heard this term, that antibiotic resistant bacteria. This is one of the challenges we are considering in as an emerging risk. Now, to address these challenges, if you see that the global leaders actually adopted several global agendas. One is the Sustainable Development Goals, Paris Agreement on the Climate Change, Nature Positive Initiative by 2030, and also to enhance our effort on the Sustainable Development Goals as well as the climate change actions. The net zero target was adopted by the many countries, including Japan. And in address to these kind of global goals, national government also take the different kind of policy development, strategy development to guide the actions toward the achievement of these global goals. But what is important here? We have the global goals, we have the policies, strategies. Unless we take the actions in the local level, we cannot achieve these national policies as well as the global goals. That's why we need to actually, how we can translate these global goals and the national policies into the local action. This is the challenge. This is the actually main focus we should take from now to achieve actually these global goals and the national. And also another thing I also wanted to highlight, that integrated actions is very important. So we should not take any action that is not connected or will not give the kind of multiple solutions. Now, just wanted to share that where we are now. This is just to give you a kind of example. This is the very recently, UN, they published this result about the status of the SDG. SDG was adopted in 2015 and almost 1 decade ago, and we have only 5 years in hand. This is the 2024 status. This is the line, if you see, that none of the SDG in our regions, Asia and Pacific region, we could make the expected progress. In fact, in case of actually climate, we have the reverse progress. That means that the climate actually, it is because of that our energy consumption increase. So that's why actually we could not, it is showing the negative trend. Now, for addressing the climate change, that if you see that there are a lot of commitment has been made by the global leaders, like the transition from the fossil fuels to the renewable energy. By 2030, global leaders agreed that 1/3 of the energy supply should come from the renewable energy. Also, if you see the importance of the local people's actions is important in reducing this climate change. But if you see that even we take this kind of effort, we could not actually make this good progress in the BAU scenario, and it is expected that by 2090, 1/3 of the population will expose to the heat waves. So we are already actually experiencing the heat waves. If you see this year, the actually summer is longer than the last year. Every year we feel the similar kind of experiences. Now, if you see, just to show that why it is important to take the early action. If you see that we, for the net zero by 2050, we need to maintain the 1.5 degrees Celsius target. And to achieve this, we need to invest 266 trillion US dollar. And if we invest, if you see, this is the BAU scenario, without taking any invest, that what will be the loss and damage? If you see the loss, economic value, 2,300 trillion US dollar will be lost without any action. But if you take the 1.5 degree scenario and you can we invest $266 trillion, then you can actually save this amount of loss, 1,266. So like that way, actually it is just to show that why it is important to take the early actions. And who should take these actions, basically? And cities will play a vital role. As you see that city has the economic center of the economic growth. They are the actually center of the consumption of the different resources. And the city should play the leading role in taking the initiative to address these challenges. And for that, already thousands of cities already made the commitment to the net zero by 2050. Like in Japan, more than 800 cities already actually declared their net zero by 2050 in line with the national government declaration. But city doesn't have they cannot achieve this target by themselves unless they have collaboration with the neighboring rural areas. Because cities are the kind of the consumption center, they have economic growth, they have skill, but they have limited natural resources, like renewable energy is one of them, as well as carbon dioxide kind of absorption capacities also mostly in the surrounding rural areas. So if they can have collaboration with the rural areas, they can actually get the multiple benefits, the kind of environmental benefits, social benefit, economic revitalization, and that can contribute to the global agenda achievement as well. Now, just to give an illustration that we have the different goals in the global level, we have the policies. Now we need to actually translate these policies into the local actions. And for this local action, as I pointed out in my earlier slide, it is important to connect urban and rural. This is the kind of, and we need to actually bring the different stakeholders in the common platform to plan together, to act together, and to generate the outcome from these actions together. So that will give the resilient society in the local level and contribute to achieve the national development goals as well as the global goals for the sustainable development. Now, what is the current scenario actually? This urban and rural, as I mentioned, that urban-rural is very important to connect it, but currently these two are very actually disconnected. There is no integration between the urban and rural development and the management of the resources. And that actually generated the trade-off between urban and rural. The urban and rural, they have the different challenges, but they have also kind of resources they can support each other. So we need to explore the synergistic relation between the urban and rural through the developing this partnership. And this partnership actually give the win-win solution for the urban and rural. So considering that, the circulating and ecological sphere approach has emerges as a kind of concept, policy concept, to bridge this urban-rural potential, partnership potential, and utilize their unique characteristics to address the challenges on the decarbonization, on the resource circulation, on the economic revitalization, as well as social well-being. So this concept actually emerged as a kind of concept that address the economic, social, and environmental challenges in an integrated manner. And what is the difference that some people may ask, what is the difference of this concept with the other sustainable development concept? I also try to show that some other sustainable development concept, one is the green economy, the second one is the circular economy, and ecosystem-based approach. So what is the uniqueness is in this concept actually? It brings the urban-rural linkage as a kind of foundation for our local actions that we need to actually bridge between the urban and rural to address the multiple challenges facing by the urban and rural area. The second thing is that if you see in other concept, they in the other concept they have a specific focus on a single issues like the green economy. It focus on the economic prosperity and environmental issues, but not that much about the social well-being. But in the circulating and ecological sphere, it actually gives the priority to the environmental sustainability, economic prosperity, and social well-being in an equal manner. So that is the actually difference between the other sustainable development concept with the CES concept. And when we talk about the CES concept, we also need to understand what are the actually different resources we have in the local level. It is whether it can be community level, it can be local level, as well as the regional level. And if you see, try to show that actually we have abundant resources in the local level, community level, and the regional level. If we can properly utilize it with a collective planning as well as actions, that we can actually help us to unlocking this local resource-based action. So that is very important to actually explore what are the available resources we have. As Hattori Sensei also showed, yeah, there is actually local resources, but if we don't manage it, if we don't use it properly, so ultimately it will not be any more resources. It will become a kind of another challenges for our sustainable development. This is the summary of the circulating and ecological sphere approach. So basically, we need to connect this urban and rural to realize living in harmony with nature. Second thing, that we need to utilize our resources and recycle it and recirculation it, so that we will have the circular practice in our daily livelihood. And the third point is that when we talk about the energy, so we have actually plenty of renewable energy resources, we need to explore it. And that will actually, once we explore this local potential, that will help to connect us with the global community, and that will help us to exchange people's information and the technologies, ultimately that will contribute to the sustainable development goal. This is just to show that actually the urban and rural, they have a specific goal to achieve the self-reliant as well as the decentralized community, local production and consumption, and use of locally available natural resources. But how we can actually do that? The rural areas, they have the different natural resources, and urban area, they have skills, money, technology. So if we can bridge these technologies and facilitate the sound cycle of natural resource, skill and finance, that will actually help to achieve the revitalization of the community as well as local environment. So some example, now I want to come to the some example from Japan that will show that how this concept works. This is one of the example from Yokohama City. Many of you may know already this initiative by the Yokohama City to achieve their net zero target by 2050. They set up a target to achieve net zero by 2050, but they don't have actually enough renewable energy resources within their boundary. So to achieve their renewable energy target, they actually made the agreement, collaboration agreement with the 16 rural government in the far distance area, like in Aomori, in Iwate, in Fukushima. And with this kind of agreement, they produce the renewable energy in those rural areas, and they actually get supply of the renewable energy to meet their need. On the other hand, how rural peoples are getting benefit from this? Basically, investment is going there. So rural people actually get some kind of green job opportunities in those kind of, and also they get the kind of tax from this renewable energy generation and investment. So that way, actually, they are getting benefit from this kind of initiative. So this is gives the win-win situation for both urban and rural area. And as you know, this is another example of this application of CES in waste management. This is case from the Kitakyushu. If you see that Kitakyushu actually take the initiative to produce the compost by utilizing the waste, they make the waste as a resource, and they actually give the supply of this compost to the neighboring rural areas farmers, so that they can produce organic product, they can actually make their agricultural practice sustainable. So like that way, they are actually collaborating each other and manage the challenges of the waste. Now this is example, that is the water resource management. It is very much connected to Hattori Sensei's earlier presentation, that Yokohama City and the Kawasaki City is located in the downstream, and they get the water supply from the upstream area. And this area mostly forest area, and 70% of the forest is owned by the private sector. And since forest is no more a profitable business for the local people, they don't actually manage forest properly because of financial issues. So the Yokohama City and Kawasaki City, they offer the kind of financial support to manage the forest in this area, to manage, because if they don't manage the forest, the Yokohama and Kawasaki city will not get the water, good quality of water supply. That actually create the kind of challenges for the water security for this city's area. So they actually provide the financial support through the tax. There is a water conservation tax. The private companies, they actually invest their CSR money. Then some part of the tariff of the from the water supply, it goes to the upstream forest management. So like that way, actually they help the local people in the rural area to manage the forest, and as a return, the Yokohama city and Kawasaki city, they are getting the good quality water supply. So this is the kind of 3 cases I shared that is already in practice for implementation of the circulating and ecological sphere approach. Now, based on these good example, we see that it works in Japan in the different contexts to address the different challenges. So how we can take this concept in outside of Japan? For that, as you know, that network is very important. We cannot work from here to the another country. So we build up the partnership with the several organizations in South Asia and Southeast Asia. Total 10 organizations is part of this initiative. The name of this initiative is CES Asia Consortium. So establish this consortium to mainstream the CES concept for promoting the local-based actions to address the sustainable development. So our approach is actually is the bottom-up approach with support of the CES consortium member. We develop the CES model to address the local-based needs, and then that actually mainstream through the national policies, and that contribute to the global agenda. Like currently we are discussing about the 2030, that after post-2030, what will be the agenda. So this is the time actually to showcase the good model and give the local-based actions in the 2030 agenda. So like that way we can promote in the post-2030 discussion to integrate the local actions that will be necessary to achieve the sustainable development in the future. So we are working in different countries, different cities. It includes the South Asian countries and Southeast Asian countries. If you see that in different area, we are working on the different topic. Because the topic we decided, it is based on the local needs. The important thing is that what we will propose as a solution, it should be aligned with the need of the local people. So here we are working to actually explore the diversified synergy actions in different local actions and enhance the local regional cooperation. Like in Japan, we are working here, we have the good example, but it may not fit with the other country. But what we can give them, we can share our knowledge, our lesson, that how the Japanese cases were established and in what context, so they can consider what kind of customization will be required to address or apply the similar concept in their context. So this is the overall in the CES Asia Consortium. This is the overall actually process we follow. If you see we have the 4 stages: the knowledge generation stage, consideration stage, action stage, and decision stage. So if you see in each step, we have the very close collaboration with the local stakeholders, which is essential to promote the local-based action. First, need to identify what is the local needs, and based on the local needs, we actually design our project, our research to generate the knowledge. And based on that, basically, we communicate with the local government, local stakeholders, and based on that, we facilitate the co-development process to generate the local need-based action plan. And that actually ultimately in collaboration with that is the basis to guide the local people to promote their collective actions to address their local needs. And now I want to actually introduce some of the examples from the other countries. This is connected to our Kanagawa case I shared with you. This is the Nagpur city located in India. It is also one of the rapid growing cities in India. And if you see that these cities actually face the significant water shortage. Sometime this is based on the newspaper. Basically on Friday, Sunday, due to water crisis, Nagpur did not have water supply. It is because of the competition between the water users. And in Nagpur, again, the water supply is again come from this dam located in the rural area. Because of these disconnections of the water management between the urban and rural, they are actually facing this problem. So to solve that problem, basically, we conducted together with our local partners in CES Asia Consortium. So we work together with the local government and try to identify what are the different solutions they have. And we found that rainwater harvesting is one of the solutions and try to identify that what are the solutions they can consider and where is the potential for this rainwater harvesting. But for that, need investment. And from where this money will come. Government doesn't really have enough money to support, go for this kind of investment, huge investment. So again, we introduced the Kanagawa prefectural government approach that like the water environment conservation tax. So similar kind of approach we introduced in the Nagpur city. And we actually, this is not based on our kind of just assumption from the Nagpur city. In the local level, how much actually people wanted, they really willing to pay. So based on that, we actually come up with a figure that about 500 rupee, they can actually consider as a kind of water environment conservation tax, and that will contribute to implement the potential of the rainwater harvesting in this area. So what is important to actually promote this concept? One is the basically benefit sharing between the urban and rural people. Give a multi-stakeholder platform where they can actually come, interact each other. And also capacity building for the rural people is very important. So because this kind of concept is not very familiar with them, so how we can actually engage them in more significantly and to support their agricultural work as well as the water management, that will with some kind of funding mechanism. This is another example from Thailand, and this is a Udong Thani, and food security is the kind of one of the challenge in this area. And again, we identified that through our analysis that if urban area, they actually collaborate with the rural area within the 15 kilometer of the periphery, they can actually secure their food through this collaboration locally. And they can actually promote this concept to support the livelihood, agriculture-based livelihood in the Udong Thani area. So this is one of the example that we also, again, here also stakeholder engagement is important and financial mechanism is important. The final case I want to share, this is maybe you already know about the solar sharing. This is the dual use of the agricultural land for generating renewable energy as well as the crop production simultaneously to generate the multiple benefits for the energy sector, for the environment, as well as for the rural people. Why it is important? If you see that in different countries, different regions, they have different kind of issues. Like in Japan, depopulation is an issue, as I mentioned, and because of depopulation, actually a large area of agricultural land become vacant. That is one of the challenges of this sustainable development. On the other hand, Bangladesh is a country, very overpopulated country. They also have net zero target by 2050, and 50% of the energy share should come from the renewable energy, but they don't have enough land so that they can actually utilize, maximize the utilization of that land by dual use of the agriculture. In most of the developing countries, they have the problems, risk of the agriculture-based livelihood, and that actually face the different kind of challenges, climate challenge, geopolitical challenge, production risk, and the other challenges. So how we can actually address those challenges with this kind of solar sharing? This is you may know the society in Chiba. This is, we can say, as a kind of solar sharing city. They have many actually solar sharing project there. And with this kind of initiative, if you see that they not only actually contribute to the renewable energy, but also contribute to the local economy. They have a kind of solar beer, name is solar beer. This is produced from the crop that produce under this solar sharing project. So this kind of initiative may be suitable for the many areas. Like one of the example in Hachinohe, that is one of the depopulation area. And we already engaged with the local government, local stakeholders, and we are working with them to actually apply this concept to bring back their abundant agricultural land. They have currently 5,000 hectare land abundant. How we can actually bring back that 5,000 abundant agricultural land in the production? We are working with them. Similarly, we also started our collaboration with our other partner countries like India, Bangladesh, and we are working, facilitating the co-development exercise. They also have huge potential, but how we can actually utilize that potential, and with developing some kind of CES action plan. So we support the action plan development to the local government to explore this potential for utilizing this potential of the solar sharing. Now we have local level potential of the application of CS, but we need to introduce it in the policy. So for that, APN and IGES, actually we jointly work together and implementing a project in the Southeast Asian countries. And currently we are working with Thailand, Philippines, and Indonesia. And we actually showed this, showcase some of the local model that they can explore. But it is also important to identify that to implement this kind of challenge, good model, what are the challenges we need to actually solve? So through this kind of workshop, actually we try to identify the different kind of challenges in Thailand, in Indonesia, and in Philippines. Some of the challenges are very similar because this concept is not familiar with them. Some regulatory aspect is there, that some regulation need to be actually considered to adopt this kind of concept, and also capacity building of the local policymaker as the practitioners is very important. So through that kind of workshop also we try to identify what are the enabling measures can be taken to mainstream the concept of the CES in the local actions. And now I want to show that basically today's topic, we are considering two topics actually. Satoyama is one, and another is the circulating and ecological sphere approach. And if you see, there is actually strong synergies between this concept, Satoyama concept as well as the CES concept. If you see the synergies, that both promote circular resource use and the regional sustainability. And both of these concepts also based on the local actions, local resources. So these are the synergies, as well as maybe the Satoyama is focusing on the more community-based effort, but in case of CES, we need to consider both urban and rural. So Satoyama can be a model for the resource circulation at the community level, which can be the place at the core of the regional CES concept. So this kind of actually model can be complement each other and can be synergy, show the synergies between the two concepts. And now, after we know the local potential, policy formulation, now need to come to the real action. And for that real actions, it is important to engage the private sector. I am not sure that in this room, if any private sector participants is here, but private sector engagement also very important to actually scale up of this kind of initiative in the real action. And private sector also can actually explore this potential, like they have different green infrastructure, clean energy, sustainable food system, water management, different kind of investment potential will open for them. So they can come forward to actually implement this kind of project in the local level, and that will also, they can explore for the new business potential for them. So this is the kind of importance of the private sector engagement in the application of the circulating and ecological sphere approach. So without, as you know, that finance is the main challenge. So how we can address the financial challenges to address this, and for that, basically the private sector engagement in the project formulation and project implementation is very important. And in that context, that private sector participation in designing the solution, in implementing the this kind of solution and model, and scaling up these cases in the different part of the country and the region is very important. So for that, private sector leadership will be very important to, it is not only the CSR activities, but more on the business oriented investment they can consider to apply these local level actions. So this is the final slide of my presentation. The first thing is that the circulating and ecological sphere approach bring actually a kind of policy dimension to engage the urban and rural, bring the different stakeholders together, and utilize the unique characteristics of the local areas to address the local challenges, as well as the achieve the global sustainable agendas through the local action. Though, and also it is important to scale up this kind of concept, and with support of the engagement of the local stakeholders as well as private sector engagement, we can actually apply this concept for net zero achievement, for localization of SDGs, for disaster risk management. And as I mentioned that there is a actually similar kind of concept like the Satoyama initiative, or in Thailand there is a circular green economy. So this circular green economy concept, the ecosystem based approach, there are several similar framework is there. So we need to actually make the kind of interlinkage of this concept through this CES implementation. Of course, there are many challenges, financial challenges, institutional challenges, policy challenges. So we need to actually take the enabling solution, find the enabling solution to promote this concept through the co-development actions, community empowerment, and engagement of the private sector. So this is the overall key messages from my presentation. So if you have any question, I will be happy to answer that.
Thank you very much,
それで
Mr.
は前
Mitoa.
よりご質
Now
問
we'd like
を
to
承ります。
take the
お時間
questions
の
from
関
the
係でお
floor.
一方から
And
お
again,
願いした
the
いと
time
思い
is
ます。
limited, so we'll
ありが
take
とうござい
only
ます。
one question from the floor.
Good afternoon. This is Paramita Bhattacharya from Kobe University. Mr. Mitro, you have mentioned about the concept of privatized forest in Japan. But in the developing countries, like I am from Bangladesh, so in Bangladesh we can see that the properties like forest or sea, these are the under control of government. So these are kind of common properties in nature. So in the countries like Bangladesh or the other developing countries from South Asia, we can see that the most challenging thing in there is the tragedy of common properties. Like there is no one to take care of those properties. So it seems like it is one of the major or crucial problem to achieve sustainable development goals. So I would like to request you to give any example, if possible, that any global agenda that are being taken to protect this kind of common properties, specifically in the developing countries? And is there any such agendas that are being implemented currently by the government of those developing countries? Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you very much for your question. Yeah, it is very actually crucial and very important for the how we can consider the common properties. And challenge of the managing common properties is that it is actually management is totally considered under the government. So government should take care of these common properties. But as you know that government in the developing country that sometime government alone cannot actually make the management of these common properties. They need to engage the community in the process. And there, basically, they need to engage the different stakeholder, private sectors. Like in Japan, in many cases, they basically, again in Kanagawa Prefecture, Yokohama City, they actually engage the private sector to manage their forest in a way that private sector invest their CSR money to manage the forest, and they name that forest name like the Fujitsu forest or the Panasonic forest in a way so that they feel that kind of their recognition to contribute in this kind of common resource management. So it is common resource should not be only belong to the mandate of the government to manage it, but how we can actually distribute this management with a kind of partnership arrangement so that that will give the more sustainable solution for the developing country. But one challenge in the developing country, it is actually lack of understanding how they actually collaborate each other, as well as that need to connect it with their business of the private sector. So government should give some kind of incentive, like the Yokohama City, they give the incentive, okay, they name the forest of that company name. So this can very simple, but this is a very big recognition. So everybody will know that, okay, certain company, they are actually working to manage this forest. Of course, you also need to, the company also need to connect with their production. Like I know that, like Santuri, they are basically kind of beverage companies or the alcohol company, this kind of, they need huge amount of water, right? Then to secure their water, basically they invest in some other country, like Sri Lanka, help them to manage their forest. So like that way they show that, okay, we are using water, but we are helping to manage the common property in the other country. So that kind of arrangement would be necessary in the future, and I think it is also will be an important discussion in the maybe post-2030 agenda, and this is the time to actually discuss how we can promote this collaborative effort to manage the common properties.
Thank you very much. Ms. Sori, again, we can take only one question. So thank you very much, Dr. Mitoda. Please give him another big applause. And this is the end of the author program for the Satoyama International Forum. And today we had the honor of hearing from Professor Emeritus Hattori about the history and culture of Kurokawa's Satoyama Forest, recognized the finest in Japan. And we also received an introduction from Dr. Mitoa on international efforts to promote the concept of regional circulating and ecological spheres across Asia. We sincerely thank both of them for their invaluable presentations. And to all of you who participated, thank you very much.